So, Stephen, the big question, what led you to decide that this was something you wanted to tackle? It's no small feat. It's no small task. So,
no, it's absolutely not. It's absolutely not. As you know, not going to go into the detail of that, but as you've already said in my intro, this year opened up Pandora's box of a whole bunch of issues, much of which mental health related. Now, I think traditionally we've always thought of mental health as being, what happens to people when they have a problem with their mental health is that they flip over and, go over the edge. And I'm rapidly concluding that mental health is a spectrum. And, you could be anything from, seriously ill at one end, down to sort of mildly hacked off and anxious at the other end. And there's everything in between. So not to belittle sort of mental health or put a label on stuff. That's kind of where I was at earlier in the year. It's still there. I've got to be honest. It's a bit of a journey. It's never a kind of, flick of the fingers and suddenly you're fixed. But I got to a point in the middle of the year where I was having conversations with a few people. I think you guys were included in this as well.
Yeah.
And, it became fairly evident that I thought originally was perhaps the domain of men of a certain age who have been in a male-dominated environment. And so I thought, right, we've got to start doing something about this, getting people talking about it. Got our creative heads on, and we came up with the name Men Able, which is a play on words of men and enable. And it's all about enabling guys in particular to feel that they can have an opportunity to speak openly about their own mental health. So the Men Able sort of brand, if you want to call it that, was born. I started putting a few videos out and suddenly getting inundated with feedback and people saying, oh my word, you're on the right lines and this applies to us. And then more and more conversations. And it just dawned on me like a power surge one day that, wow, this is almost kind of what I feel like I've been put on the planet for. This has been a journey. There's a massive painful piece this year. But now I can see that, actually, I'm not the only one to have gone through this, and I'm not the only one that's going to go through it in the future. What we need to be as an industry is there to help and provide and support for people when they do. So hence the movement was born.
Wow. And what a movement it's become, Russ. And here we are. Again, we're in 3 different time zones in 3 different countries, and something as powerful as the idea alone has drawn us all together here today. Mm-hmm. So, Russ, what's your take on so far what has drawn you into Men Able?
So for me, it originally started with a conversation with Stephen and I as we continued to talk and to get to know each other in this past summer. But it really hit home with me because I've lived that stressful life, right? I've been the sales manager. I've been that transactional person on a day-to-day basis of the pressures of performing in ways that in the automobile industry that are task related and goal-oriented related on a month-to-month basis. And the strain and stress of those situations ultimately leads to, things and I'm sure in your countries as well, but here in the United States, it's the sad running joke of, guys in the car business are at least divorced and estranged from their kids.
Yeah.
And it happened to me. I absolutely regret not watching my kids grow up because I was working all the time. I was trying to do all the things and be all the things for everyone. And ultimately it just takes its toll on itself. And when you get to be my age and it generates a regret. And I don't want people who it's never too late to say, hey, I don't feel right. It's never too late or wrong to say that this is troubling. I know something needs to change. But, in our generation, this generation of people essentially over 45, that's all we've known, right? It's what our parents know. It's what we were raised to do. We were raised to keep our mouth shut and to keep working, especially as men, to man up or be a good boy. All those kinds of phrases are so detrimental as we look back on our lives. To have a chance to express those things in a public forum and to be able to support and help other people through an organization. That's really why I'm here.
It's a pretty big deal. And, when Stephen and I shared, and as with you as well, several conversations over the summer, and it was not just the summertime, it was, going through the thick of COVID and, trying to coexist in a pandemic, and international worldwide pandemic, and trying to figure out which way is up next, what's tomorrow going to be like. And here on top of all of this, the stresses of being laid off from work, I remember closing the dealership and turning out the lights and looking back and like, we can't go back in that dealership. And it was weird. It was a weird feeling. It was a weird ass feeling like, we can't go back to the dealership. We are mandated to close. And that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Where we've been forced to go home and stay the hell home until this thing is figured out. And so that was kind of a rude awakening for me. And then obviously, I know, Stephen, you and I spent a few Sunday mornings talking, and Russ, we were on a few other Zooms and so on. But so tell me, guys, how does one define this issue? If you're a sales rep or a service writer, how do you know that you're experiencing mental health or having an issue?
Well, for me, I think what I'm rapidly concluding, because it's a very good question, and I've asked myself that, at what point do you say, I've got mental health issues? And I think the reality of it is every single one of us has, just as we have physical health.
Gotcha.
And it is on a spectrum. And as I say, it's from being mildly annoyed right the way up to, real serious, properly medically diagnosed disorders, and everything in between. The difference for me is that with a physical illness, if you woke up one morning and said, "Oh, my leg aches," I don't feel, I've got a bit of a pain in the knee today, we'd openly talk about that, and everyone go, "Oh, well, have you tried this? Or what about this? Or what's caused that then?" But if you wake up in one morning and you think, "You know what, I just really don't feel like it today," or something's going on, or I'm fretting or anxious about this, those are the things that we don't tend to talk about. And what our mission is to get people opening up and going, no, it's okay to just as you would say, look, I've got a headache, to actually go, yeah, I've got a headache, but it's not a physical headache. It's the weight bearing down on me headache.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great analogy, because you're right. We talk about the physical ailments all the time, but no one ever really recognizes that they're having stresses or mentality or mental health issues from that broad spectrum. For me, it's realizing and waking up in the morning and having this thought of, oh, what if, right? What if this happens? What if that happens? Why didn't I get this done? Why didn't I get that done? Different scenarios of each transaction of the things that have to be completed today. I wake up with this tendency to have a to-do list in my brain.
Yeah.
And then I start to panic is a strong word, but I start to fret about, like, how am I going to get all that done? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this if I don't get this done? And then it just piles upon each other and piles upon each other and piles upon each other. And you don't even know it. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted going, talking with your significant other about, how your day was, and you're just exhausted. You just want to sit down. You don't want to do anything, right? You get your day off. Like,
and as you alluded to at the beginning, Russ, as well, I mean, if you then combine, you compound that over many, many years and many situations where as a man in a male dominated environment, you probably wouldn't have talked about a lot of this stuff. You'd have bottled it up. You'd have suppressed it, repressed it, not had that conversation, what's wrong with you? Oh, I'm all right. I'm fine. No, leave me alone. I'll be okay. All of that. And we see that all the time. And this is a conversation I've had with both of you. How many of us have walked into a car dealership and, you say to somebody, how you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm okay.
Well, I'm guilty of that. So, yeah.
And what we're talking about here is the emotions. This is the emotions. And this is why I'm now a believer that it's on a spectrum, and we're all susceptible to this.
Absolutely. And, some of us feel that we're too big and too powerful, or it would be too embarrassing to say, no, I'm actually not having a good week or a good month, or there are things, that even though I may look good here at work, and one of the next question I wanted to touch on, which kind of relates to the point I'm trying to make here, is we spend like a third of our lives at work. Some people spend more, some people spend a little less, but it's about at least a third of our lives. And generally work is a good outlay or a good environment to kind of de-stress, because there are a lot of people I know who leave their homes to go to work, okay, because it's less stressful at work, right? And so why do you think, guys, men's mental health, and especially in the automotive industry, and I read the recent article actually commissioned in the UK, where men's mental health is costing the industry in 2018 $1.2 billion in productivity, because of obviously time off and so on. Why do you think that this is on the rise currently in the automotive space?
Russ, do you want to pick that up first?
Yeah. So for me, it's about a drive to be culture driven. So to create a customer experience needs to create a culture. The transactional based 0 to 0 every 30 days is really, I think, what generates this overwhelming, up and down cycle of inactivity and productivity. And I think absolutely to change that process, you guys touched on it a little bit, is when someone says, hey, how you doing? We need to be prepared to listen and to really listen, right? Everybody has, hey man, how you doing today? Oh, great. Oh yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm great. But if you're really paying attention and you say, yeah, I'm great, and then they dip their head and they go back to work, right? That piece of enthusiasm isn't quite there. We need to learn to stop. And I think that in the culture of car dealerships, there are some very just outstanding cultures and some dealer groups in this country. But then there are some others that are just still they're still in the 70s. That just don't get it. And the leadership of the people who are like us in that age bracket, who can change those things for the people who are coming forward, that boils down to the culture.
Yeah. 100%. And that's exactly the situation in the UK. And I've said from the beginning, this Menable is not about training. It's not about coaching as such. This is about culture change. And this is about disrupting those cultures and going into those businesses and saying, look, you've got to take a long, hard look in the mirror at what is going on in your business and what you're about and who you are. Because, I even had somebody yesterday who said to me, are employers responsible for staff's mental health? And my answer to that is yes, absolutely you are. 100% you are. There is no legislation that says that you need to deal with it in this way, but you need to stop and think, what are the contributors? What are the things that you're doing that's contributing to that person behaving or doing things in that way, taking that stuff home or whatever it is? And Russ is bang on in as much as, what we have is a considerable amount of leaders across the business who do things in the same way that they did in 1985. And yet things have moved on a lot. And so this younger generation I said about earlier, 25 to 37, 38 year group are coming up behind us and going, whoa, hang on. No, the world doesn't look like that anymore. So we need to address the culture and we need to look at what we're doing. And, to get a bit political about it for a minute, what doesn't help is that the industry is geared up for mass production. So we have OEMs churning out cars in the thousands. That then gets disseminated through a network of dealers. And of course, then everyone's working to targets and objectives. And suddenly what you have is a whole bunch of leaders and managers who do not in the main have the emotional intelligence to do that in a way that's other than, be strong or be gone kind of attitude. And that has just perpetuated itself for many, many years.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen this firsthand, and I continue to see it where the month to month, which is, it's this whole transactional, cycle where you get your targets 1 month. Okay. And you don't know how many times I've heard, well, that was yesterday. Yesterday is finished. Last month is finished. And today you're at zero. Right? And doesn't matter what you did last month, even if you did 30 cars or 25 or, whatever targets you achieved. Well, the slate's now clean and you're starting over. Or constantly hearing, the comments, the constant comments or the sarcastic feedback from either management or team members, or constantly seeing favoritism within your dealership, whether you're in the service department, work being divvied out to certain technicians, favors, and that bothers people. And then they go to one or two other people and they talk about it, and they're scared to go talk to their supervisors or their managers about it. And, then they're stressed and they go home with this. And it's like, you're stressed at home, you take that to work. You're stressed at work, you take that to home. And it's this ping pong back and forth daily, that drives people insane. And you wonder why we have not learned that our best resources is people. And it's really the strong that, like us, in a way, that kind of are able to pivot our way around and through a lot of this mess, that survive it in a way, because many people will say, well, I don't need to scrap. And that's why the careers are mostly shorter.
And the staff turnover. I mean, we've got companies in the UK whose staff turnover is still in the 50-60%.
Yeah.
And they'll question, well, what's men-able about? What you're trying to fix? Well, we're not trying to fix anything. That's losing the point. The fact you've got this staff turnover suggests you have a problem, and your problem is your culture. Yeah. And I was talking to a sales manager on the phone this afternoon, who was saying that the reason he left his job in the end was because month end came round. His wife had just had a baby, and his boss was on the phone saying, I don't care what's happened, whether your wife's had a baby or not. It's month end. You need to be in here.
Oh my God.
And then he's ending up then on the phone to his administrator in the evening, getting her to come in as well. She only works till 2 p.m. to register 3 cars so that they can hit their target for the month end. For what purpose? For somebody to sit back 3 days later and go, wow, didn't we do well last month?
Yeah.
But at what cost? At what cost?
That I call that a culture of shame. And because that's what Everold touched on it. You get essentially, well, aren't you on the team? Aren't you a team player? Well,
I hate
what's
that.
the problem? I know your kid is doing this, or your family needs this or that, but so what? I mean, they just stare at you like, so what's the point?
Yeah,
and it's the most frustrating, anxiety-filled moments of people's lives that they don't really realize until they look back on them and go, oh, man, I can't believe I did that. Because we sit here on this phone call or on this Zoom and we talked about it like, oh my God, that's horrible. We lived it.
Yeah. We did.
Every month after month. And I don't want the people coming behind us to have to deal and go through that again.
Yeah. And actually, no, you're spot on. And as leaders, we were part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key bit is if you're not part of the solution, then you are a part of the problem.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like when you leave home in the morning, you suddenly hit a traffic jam, and you sit there in your car for half an hour blaming everybody else. Well, hey, guess what? You left at the same time and got in the same traffic jam.
So Roger Connaught is saying culture is really a behavior. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think it's culture, speaking to Roger's point, is really a choice of how you behave. Yep. It's what you choose to tolerate in your company as managers or the owner, and what you choose to tolerate, as staff. But it really comes from the top down. Sometimes the staff doesn't have a choice but to put up with, certain things. But it's really up to management. It's really up to ownership. It's really up to leadership, where, I teach a lot about the philosophy of companies, not just automotive dealerships and automotive businesses in the auto space, but the philosophy of companies what is that philosophy? Do you even have a philosophy? And if you do have a philosophy, then you should be dealing with these issues and questions and circumstances. If a staff member says, you know what, my wife's given birth, like Russ alluded to, or, or is pregnant and I need to go home, and not make that person feel guilty. And I've been through this. And I won't get into the raw details of it, but I have been through this nonsense where, and it led me to actually make some decisions as well. So, for dealerships out there, if you can help, and I think we all can help, all leaders in dealerships, owners, managers can help. And you can help by starting to listen a little bit better. Okay. Just show a little bit of empathy. It's almost like you don't have to do much else. There's no, just to listen, to talk to somebody, just to ask the question, by the way, how was your weekend? Or how did you make out this weekend? Or how is your wife? Or how are things going on at home? Those things today is what's important. Right. And if you haven't learned yet and seen all the people going into hospitals and not coming back out and dying alone, and, that's all you need to see, so there's a lot bigger things there for us. So, so from your perspective, Russ, are there particular positions that you've seen in the automotive space that are more prone to mental health? Like, is it more in the service? Have you seen more people in sales, or is it in management?
I think really it boils down to everyone who is derived, and their pay and what they go to work for. It can literally be any person in any dealership. Management obviously is in control of that culture, and what that, whether or not it has a positive spin to it or not. But I do know that if you take care of those people, to allude to what you just talked about, if you take care of those people and you really care about those people and understand that those people have lives outside of work, 2/3 of their life is, partly sleep, but the rest of it's not work related. And we go to work to take care of our families.
Yeah.
Right. We the family should be first. And I think that ultimately, if you create that kind of a mentality, then the employee, whether it's a lot person or it's a service writer, it's a parts and service director, a general manager, whoever that person may be, if you set the tone to understand that you are here at work to support and take care of your family, and you as an employer, that is your goal, is to support them, guess what? They take care of your customer.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. There are so many examples of these things every day in the car business that we see. And we see them all over LinkedIn. We see them all over Facebook. But there's nearly 17,000 franchise dealerships in America. We see a dozen.
Yeah.
Right. All the rest of them are still on that transactional hero to zero basis. And I think that the power of positivity and listening and being empathetic. Listen. We have a tendency to listen to respond and to answer, but listen. Just listen. To find and understand why that person is doing what they do, why that person needs a lot.
Yeah.
That person might need something else. Might want to be a technician, he or she. And that culture has to be set. Otherwise,
and sometimes it's just, like you said, just listening is literally giving that person the time to speak.
Right.
Not rushing, not cutting off the conversation. You don't even have to say much, right? But literally being in the moment, being present, so that person acknowledges that, this person is actually taking in what I'm saying. And that time that you're spending shows care, and oftentimes diffuses the whole situation. So, and you're saying to that other person who's venting or speaking that, you matter. Your time is important enough that I'm going to block out everything right now, and I'm just going to listen to you. And that goes a long way. So one of my next questions is, what are some of the signs of mental health, and how, what is mental health? What are some of the signs? And, you can go and get clinically diagnosed as whether it's anxiety or depression. Those are some of the main ones that are usually easier to deal with. And then there's obviously the more complex ones like schizophrenia and, the more, intense types of mental health. But what are the signs? So if you're at work on the showroom floor, if you're in the service, if you're a technician, how does one know?
I think, well, like I said, for me, what I'm uncovering or discovering through all of this journey myself is that every single one of us have mental health. At what point we define it as a problem is the point at which we feel that stuff has become too much for us, or we've flipped over the edge, or whatever it might be. But every single one of us, from being sort of mildly annoyed, as I said, to as you said, Everold, right off the scale at the other end. And I think as leaders, Roger's right about culture being behavior and vice versa. And it is about having that culture of behaviors in your business that you can spot when somebody is, maybe a bit off color one day, or maybe they're not, performing at the level that they have been, or they're not as happy as they were the day before. And, and this is about becoming kind of emotionally invested in a two-way street kind of way. You're as emotionally invested in your employee as they are in you, and they should be coming to you and saying, look, I'm not feeling it. I've got this going on at home. I've got stuff happening. Things are not right for me at the moment. I had an employer say to me yesterday, yeah, but at what point do we know when somebody's mental health, they're using mental health as an excuse for just, swinging the lead. I mean, I won't say the exact phrase they said, but you can imagine what it was. Swinging the lead. How do we know that they're not just using that? And I said, well, because you can't on the one hand say that, you're a family business and you have family values and a great philosophy and a great ethos and all the rest of it. And then suddenly, actually, what does that really look like in reality? That person starts, and the next conversation you have with that person after their start date is a month later when they have or have not hit target. Then in a month after that, when they have or have not hit target.
Yeah.
Because what we should be doing is being emotionally invested and start from the beginning. And this guy this afternoon was saying, as a leader now of his own business, he's going to sit people down and say, look, this is what it means to work here. This is what you can expect from me. I want to know now what you expect from me as a leader. And I need to know what's going on in your life, because that has a direct impact on what's going on in this business. And I want you to talk to me. You come and talk to me. There will be an open door, and you will be listened to, and you will be understood, and so on and so on. And I have to say, in all my time of working in dealerships, I can't think of anybody that I've worked with who's had that conversation with their teams. I don't know about Russ, whether you have, but that for me is this is where we need to get to, is exactly what you said, Everold, is getting people in that emotionally intelligent place to be able to spot things aren't right for Steve or Russ at the moment. Let's just let's not wait until they get to this point on the spectrum and then go, oh, there we are. There's a crisis. Now we can step in.
Yeah. And then it's too late sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, at the end of the day, if you really stop, and so as a vendor, so if you take in dealing with car dealerships all the time over the years, in the business to business side, you can always tell, and even as a manager, when you're interviewing someone or having any kind of a conversation with that person, and especially within the car dealership, because that's what my whole career has been in the car dealership, right? If they're looking beyond you, right? They're looking past you. They're not looking you in the eye and understanding and listening to you and not speaking, then you have a culture difference. Mm-hmm. If the person on the other side of that conversation isn't looking at you or isn't just sitting there quietly listening, if they're looking beyond you, they're not listening. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is a very tell sign as to the empathetic person that he or she is. Mm-hmm. If they're not engaged with you in that moment with a big I mean, it could be a giant crowd around you, it doesn't matter. But sitting across the desk from someone and they're not looking at you and they're looking at everything behind you, it's a tell sign for me.
So Roger is making a point to that as well. He's saying that addictions run wild in dealerships, and one reason is that it's not manly to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Totally agree with that.
But
that's spot on.
But do you think sometimes that in a dealership culture, if they made it clear from the very onset that, look, we have an open door policy. If there are any issues you need to deal with, as a team or individually or in private, here are the steps to do so. And here's the avenue that's open. Or having a manager that you can go and talk to who will actually give you the time of day, mm-hmm. and listen to you. And you can talk to man or talk to as a friend. But, I also see Roger's point where some people just don't want to air their dirty laundry at work because that's a totally different environment. And then you'd be looked at totally differently. But you'd be surprised how many of those same people that you're sharing your stories with have the same or worse problems.
Oh, I'm 100%. Yeah.
Right. And, what I've found in talking to other people is that they're almost happy that you're talking to them, because the minute you start talking about your issue, they also start talking about their issue. Mm-hmm. Right. And now realizing that there's someone else that they can share things with. And that's kind of like, I think Steve and I actually initially we started talking to each other, and it worked out. So that would be my suggestion, Roger, if that helps. And I know it's not manly to ask for help, and I sure as hell don't want to, talk to people about my personal business and vice versa. But I think we got to try and start somewhere, and that's the key.
Absolutely. I mean, I had somebody yesterday who kind of intimated to me that, this is such a big problem, and it's, a massive industry. Where do you begin? And I sat back and I went, look, there are a million reasons why we shouldn't be doing this. Yeah. There are a million reasons why Men Able should not exist. Yeah. But actually, if we end up saving one life, because of it internationally, then it's been worth it. Yeah. But Roger's right. It is that's perception that it's not manly. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with that. I grew up with you're the head of the household. You are the breadwinner. You are, programmed that you will leave school. You will get your qualifications. You follow what society expects, and you will go down this route. Be the breadwinner and do all that. Get all that stuff that goes with that. And then it's not manly to actually go. But I've got this going on, and actually, then it boils down to, especially in our industry, the issue of the fact that we are very competitive. It's very male dominated, as we've said. It's target driven, so it's fast paced. So it's what we're aiming to do with Men Able is to create businesses that go, whoa, let's just slow it down a bit, everyone. Let's ease off a little bit and just go, no, it is okay to talk about this stuff.
So from your perspective, now that you've started this movement, Stephen, and we're Russ and I are involved, peripherally in different countries, and we're identifying more and more of this issue in our business. What is your goal to drive that positive message or mental health message across the industry? How are we now going to get this across to more people that there is in fact an opportunity and a space to communicate?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? This is the first time I've ever done anything, I've ever created anything that doesn't have a business plan or a spreadsheet. And I've not sat down for a minute, and Russ and I have had this conversation a lot. I have not sat down for a minute and gone, if we were to get this many customers paying this much money, this is how much money we'll earn. It's not about that. And every single person that's involved in this would do this stuff for free. Yeah. Now we are at the point of saying, well, no, there's a commercial element to this as well, and that's equally not about profiteering or anything like that. It doesn't come into it. But the key bit is to get more and more people talking about it. And what this has done is captured people's imaginations. And look at us now. 3 guys of a similar age sitting on a Zoom call, going, talking about this stuff and saying, hey, what we've grown up with is not right. It's not fit for purpose anymore. We need to address this.
Mm-hmm.
And that begins with talking about it. And I've had, in the UK, we've got a process called mental health first aid. Now, I'm not going to decry that because it does a fantastic job. They go into organizations and they train people on what to look for, how to deal with situations when they come up. The issue that I have with that, for me, in our industry, and this is probably, I'm talking specifically the automotive industry, one, the mental health issues are on a spectrum. So it's at what point do you intervene? And secondly, our industry is too cynical and too reactive. And what I can envisage, and you guys are probably, identify with this as well, is that as a training course would end up being run in a room upstairs somewhere in a dealership with 10 managers sitting there who don't want to be there, all looking at their phones, looking at their watches and ticking a box at the end of it and going, oh, well, I've done that training. Oh, have you done your mental health first aid training? Oh, yeah, I did that 6 months ago. And now I feel ready that when I get to this point and someone goes and hits that crisis point, I know what to do. What I've not addressed is the stuff back here that's the arm around the shoulder, the cultural conversation. And, I've just seen that Roger's just made a great point, which is about getting more women in the automotive industry. Women are naturally good at this stuff. They support each other. They nurture. They've got a different set, wiring completely. And I'm the first to admit that. And there's an organization in the UK called the 30% Club that has a goal to get 30% of senior leadership positions filled from diverse women by 2030. Now, one of the things they spotted, and I was talking to their founder this morning, was that the issue that we have in the automotive industry is that women join and then positively select out of the industry because they come in and they find themselves in a male-dominated, manly cultural area where it's about banter, it's about saying what you want, it's about, shoving stuff under the carpet, and it's push, 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 push. And women go, no, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Everold, I'm going to jump on the top side of that.
Yeah.
Is when, I don't really know, when the automobile industry is dominated by old white, and I'll be blunt, it's old white guys. And until they change their ability to see things differently than who they are, they will never change. So
100%.
we really, really have to understand that the people who are at the top, it's okay to not be manly. It's okay to take another person's opinion. Look outside of yourself. Look outside of yourself to understand that people of color and that women absolutely can bring value to the customer experience and can bring value to the culture of a dealership. Do not look for your buddy. Don't look for who looks like you, who acts like you, who does like you. I would implore them to take a different look. Take a look at people of color. Take a look at women in leadership roles. They might not have the experience. None of them have the experience because they don't enter the field, right? Help them to enter the field and nurture that process and bring them along and be positive with them. And it will absolutely make a difference in the lives of other people, and especially in the automotive business, because until the leaderships start to see things other than themselves, it'll be this is what, to me, what Enable is really about, is changing and being diverse and understanding that it's not just me as the old white guy, right?
Yeah.
Get out of that box.
100%. And this is why we've said all along, haven't we? And Russ and I have had this conversation a lot. What does Menable provide? And I've actually said, well, I find it easier to say what Menable doesn't provide. And what we don't do is we don't send a trainer into a dealership to train people on how to spot mental health issues.
Yeah.
Because they'll tick the box, they'll laugh a bit, they'll have a bit of a banter about it, they'll all sit there and point fingers and make jokes at each other, but they won't actually go, oh yeah, no, what we need to do is to address this issue of, why are we still expecting people to work 70 hours a week?
Yeah.
Why are we paying them below basic and paying them commission? What effect does that have on them outside of work when they have a poor month? Why are they having a poor month? What's going on for them? We need to be addressing all of that.
Yeah, and I've seen some very clear examples of it where in my dealership, for example, we've had sometimes when the women have actually had better months than the men, and all you hear are these jokes and comments how the women beat the men. And it's not like, okay, this person is number one or did a great job, but they're making the comparisons now, man versus woman. And just yesterday, I had a conversation with a female, very accomplished young lady, and she's had her best year yet. And she literally said, I don't like this business. She's made the most money she's ever made, right, in her life, in her career in the last 5 years. And she just doesn't like the business because of the process and of, everything around it, the things that are said, the examples that are given, the rules that are one-sided, the lack of empathy, the lack of care, literally about your own personal time. And when people have to feel guilty for taking a vacation or guilty for taking a day off, you're done. You've lost those people. Right? You're so done. It's just a matter of time until something better comes along. And I wish more dealerships would really appreciate that, listening to your people and treating your people like people is the most important thing. I've seen it. So why is it that big company, like large corporations, like Richard Branson has hundreds of companies and people stay there forever and he's not even working in these companies specifically, culture. And why is it that because it's the automotive space, there can't be proper culture? There can't be open door policies. There can't be real support for men and women. Why? Why are we shooting ourselves in the foot?
Well, we have a legacy, don't we, of people moving around. And, people who have been in it a long time. And I don't know about where you are, but certainly in the UK, there has been a case for it's a badge of honor that you've actually moved around the industry a lot.
Yeah.
And we end up with salesmen and service managers and sales managers and heads of business that sit there and go, oh, well, I've done a year here and 18 months over there and 2 years there. And, I only did a month there, but that didn't really work out. And we sit there and go, oh, well, that's okay. He must be, he's got a load of experience. He's going to be great for us because he's moved around the industry a lot. And so, but what are we doing? We're just kicking the can up the street all the time.
Yeah.
And moving it around. And this thing never gets addressed because and what I really sincerely hope for our industry is that through all of this, now that, lots of airlines are making people redundant and, what COVID has done for various industries, I hope that there are elements of our industry that go, do you know what? We could be employing some of these people because they are so good at customer service. They're so good at leadership. I don't care that this lady's never sold a car in her life, but actually what she has done is she's managed a team of 20 air hostesses on an aeroplane long haul for the last 20 years. She's going to make a fantastic sales manager.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you on that subject, Stephen and Russ. Now that we have, and mostly you, Stephen, as you founded this movement, and you obviously there's a profound purpose behind this.
And passion, I think that comes across.
And passion, purpose and passion, absolutely. People, purpose, passion.
Yeah, right? I'm going to write that down here.
Yeah, exactly. Have you identified, like, say, the top 3 issues and maybe what the top 3 solutions, or first steps would be in trying to bend this curve, so to speak?
I think going back in reverse order a little bit, I think the top 3 solutions would be getting people talking about it. I think it's awareness.
Awareness.
Awareness, first of all. It's education. And when I say that, I don't mean training. I do not mean sending people on training courses. It's actually the opposite. It's conversations like this. I don't want managers being dragged halfway across the country to sit in a room in a hotel for when we get back to that, for a day to walk away with a workbook and tick the box. I don't want that. That's not what I mean. So it's awareness, education, and then the final bit is prevention.
Okay.
And it's about that opening that conversation piece up to say, preventing people getting to this, crisis point on the spectrum is about having those conversations earlier. And that's culture, behavior, everything.
Wow. And that's what I was going to ask, is that I'm aware of awareness. I understand education, but how can you prevent?
Well, I think this is where we're partly stuck in our industry and I've had this conversation 2 or 3 times the last few days. Leaders that have asked that, and forgive me, it sounds like I'm challenging you now, Everold, and I don't mean to.
Let's go.
No, because what you're spot on. What this alludes to is that our industry is a diagnostic and fix-it industry, particularly in the service lane, right?
Uh-huh.
A car comes in, it's got a squeak, we put it on a ramp, we find the problem, we change the part, it goes back out, problem solved. And the legacy that we have is that we always try and do that with people. Yeah. And you can't, because this spectrum. Now, if somebody's at crisis point, you can kind of take them, put them into counseling and perhaps fix them a little bit. But what about all these people down here? All these people that are 10 years into the 20-year cycle, Yeah. So prevention is about having conversations. It's about us going out there and going, it's okay to have this chat. Take 5 minutes out of your day and have a coffee with somebody.
Yeah. No, very powerful stuff. What are your thoughts, Russ?
So for me, it's obviously the awareness, the education, but the prevention for me ultimately boils down to, I alluded to a minute ago, is listening. Because even on the variable side, we're still checking off boxes. His, squeak, fix it, replace the part, done, next. On the variable, on the sales side, it's the same way, right? Okay, car, I did a walk around, I did the steps to the sale, I filled out my back bracket, I sent them into the finance office. We're still checking off those boxes every day, right? Now, there's a certain amount of that we need to do, right? Everybody still needs to do that process, right? We still need to have that, but the expectation of what that process will produce, I think, is where the prevention piece comes in. Because if you follow the process and you do the things that you want to do in your life, not just in the car business, but and really understand who you are and what you want to be, this is for me personally, in the last couple of weeks, is a very hard question to answer, right? Because everybody thinks that you have to have this checkbox. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I'm supposed to do that. Like I've been in the car business 28 years. I'm supposed to go get a job in the car business. Okay, wait a minute. I got challenged a few days ago by someone that Stephen introduced me in the Netherlands, right? What is your dream job? Okay, it's my job as a human being to figure out what that is. But if I can't find a safe place to go to work, to do that, to find out what that dream job really is, then how am I ever going to find it? I'm almost 53 years old. Mm-hmm. And I'm really asking myself, okay, wait a minute. So what is my dream job? What is it that I really want to do? And I think creating a culture in an automobile dealership, if you had the ability to do that, everything else would fall into place. Yeah, you would not 100%. have the issues that we have today in terms of turnover and not having an inclusive workplace.
Mm-hmm. Wow, outstanding. So if we were to leave the audience, gentlemen, with a couple of tidbits, what would that be after such a compelling conversation led by the founder and CEO, Mr. Stephen Whitton, and Ambassador Russ Mann from Arizona?
Ambassador for the United States, nonetheless.
For the United States. See, I love the title. Right.
And the ambassador for Canada and Jamaica. Mr. Everold Reid.
Yeah. Hence the Jamaican accent in me. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal, this whole thing. So I'm very proud to be part of the group and absolutely be able to spread the word and to have a platform that we can use to have further discussions and to bring as many people on the show next time to deepen the discussion as we all learn about it, because it's a new subject for me to dive into as well. So I appreciate that. So what would be your takeaways, Russ? What are your thoughts?
So I'm absolutely grateful for the time and the platform to be able to talk about this issue, because I know that there are thousands and thousands of people who are going through this process right now in the automobile industry. They're absolutely listening to us and going, wow, this is happening to me. Wow, Russ had 4 kids, and all 4 of them, he doesn't really know how they grew up because he was never there. So if I can make that impact to have them to stop and slow down and really understand and really look inside themselves to help themselves understand what it is that they want and how they want it and how they want their life to be. Don't fill it with regret, and fill it with things and understanding that every single person matters, regardless if they're man, woman, black, white, doesn't matter. Okay, we're all still humans. And to me, that's really what drives me in this message, is to be able to have that opportunity to help someone else understand that regret is coming. And it's powerful.
Yeah. And I sense that every time I speak to Russ, and I know Everold, you've got, we've talked as well, haven't we, at length, and we share a lot of stuff between the 3 of us. And it, for me, my takeaways would be to say, keep these conversations going, have conversations in the business. It's okay. Don't be fearful. I mean, I'll just read you a very quick message that somebody sent me on LinkedIn yesterday on the back of one of the videos that I put on, which was the one about the sales manager who was dropped in at the, like a parachuted in at 27 years old and just had to find his own way into that world. And this guy wrote to me and he said, thanks for that post. It happens a lot with good salespeople too. I'm off work currently, as I've had a nervous breakdown due to the lack of good leadership and bully tactics, as well as this lockdown and the virus. I'm extremely good at my job, but been made to feel like a number, and frankly, I'm sick of it. Everyone deserves to be treated with the utmost respect and needs to be given the support they need. But I've had nothing, sadly. I put my heart and soul into my job and my customers and get consistent recommendations. I'm now starting to think my face doesn't fit.
Wow. And that's unsolicited. Somebody sending me a message on LinkedIn off the back of a post similar to this. Yeah.
And so I'm saying to myself, there's a need.
Yeah. Oh, huge. And that word, the key word that I heard there was bully. Okay. I witnessed that a lot. And it's not good. None of it is okay. And so Roger is commenting here. Roger, you've been a great
He should have got on the panel.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to get Roger in next time for sure. So Roger talks about he's been in AA for 35 years. Getting recovering addicts involved in the movement could help if they have enough recovery. Some great points, Roger. I appreciate you being on. So, folks, we definitely want to hear your feedback on this topic of mental health in the automotive space. It's a very big deal. There are, I think, there are about 5,000 automobile dealerships between Canada and the United States. I'm not sure how many there are in the UK, but I know that there's 5,000 just new car stores between Canada and the United States, and there's over 550,000 salespeople, and that's just salespeople or in the sales team. Not to mention the fixed ops teams. So we're talking about a lot of people that this potentially affects, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity to speak to them in this platform and to be able to have the exposure to so many people across multiple countries. The UK, and these are the top 3 countries that listen to the show: United States #1, Canada 2, and UK #3. So definitely some people will hear it in all 3 countries, and we will obviously edit this episode and use parts of it to share continuously with our respective audiences once it's edited and because I screwed it up in the beginning, as you know. Once,
No one would never have known if you hadn't mentioned it.
I know it. We'll let the techies do all of that. But so anyways, how do we get a hold of Stephen? How do we get a hold of Russ?
Okay, well, for me, you can go to the website, which is menable.org. And there is a contact sheet on there, and there's even a space where you can book half an hour's conversation with somebody if you feel that way inclined. And on LinkedIn, of course, Stephen J. Whitton, Whitton.
Yeah.
Wish I had $2 for every time I had to spell that. Don't forget the J. Yeah, Stephen with a PH.
Yeah.
And Menable has a LinkedIn page as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Everold. For me, it's really LinkedIn, and then Facebook. Certainly message me or text me through those platforms. RUSSMANN is the name, and I appreciate you, Everold. I appreciate you, Stephen, for the time
likewise.
that it takes to be honest and open on a platform like this. It is not easy to do, and hopefully we've set an example that others can be inspired by. And I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we certainly always enjoy hearing your feedback and having you listen and write us and email us on the Reid Method Insider Podcast. So continue sending those emails in, insider@thereidmethod.com, or message us as well, DM through Messenger, but insider@thereidmethod.com. And please subscribe or download your favorite episode, especially this one. You want to subscribe and download this episode and share this episode.
Definitely.
It's on iTunes, SoundCloud. So when it's edited, it'll be on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, like wherever you get podcasts, it'll be there. Okay. Leave us a review. Give us a feedback on this particular episode. We've had so many great world-renowned thought leaders, including Todd Stoudemire, who's in Arizona right now. That's where he resides, 3-time World Series champion. He was just on my show last. Okay, and just of note, he won the back-to-back championships here in Toronto. Just, making not in Arizona.
Toronto has a baseball team?
Oh, shut up. 92, 93, coincidentally 1993, when you started in the automotive space.
Yep.
Okay, we won our second world championship, and we've also had Les Brown on the show multiple times. Tom Hopkins, who's also from Arizona, has been on the show several times, and now Stephen J. Whitton. Don't forget the J. Second time, okay, and Russ Mann, also from Arizona. Like all these Arizona folks coming on the show for the first time. So welcome, Russ, and we'd love to have you back. And another gentleman who's a great contributor to the show from Badger Maps, another Stephen Benson. And I appreciate all you folks. And remember, for the rest of the year and beyond, be thoughtful, be intentional, have those conversations. Don't be afraid to contact us or reach out to someone if you need some help. And definitely, folks, be safe. Thank you very much, everybody.